Hi, today is February 22nd, 2025, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 289 for the year, Unreal. The snow-covered tree looks like magic to me, but then again, you see, I have a tendency to see magic automatically without trying or straining. It's a habit I have, but I am not complaining. I'll walk along a bit and open up my eyes, and the most quotidian things I see inevitably surprise, and as I look and as I see, my eyes open still more, and I will wonder and wonder why. Who could this all be for? And when the answers come and I feel filled with all there is, perhaps I'll snap a picture, then return home to the biz of vainly trying to convey in words the way I feel, when once again I've come across a real that is unreal. Poem number 290, The War Poets. The war poets write about the brutality and banality and inanity of war. When reading the war poets, one can be moved to tears or repulsed. One can wonder why the war poets choose such gruesome subject matter. Or one might not wonder why a poet in a war zone might choose to write of war. But what about the war poets who are nowhere near the wars they write about? Displaced in time or place or both, they paint horrific pictures and sometimes seem to revel in the carnage. All poets, of course, should feel free to write about whatever they want to write about, but that doesn't answer the question of why they want to write about what they want to write about. Poem number 291, The Love Poets. Ironically, the love poets often find themselves at war with the war poets. Of course, there is no irony for the war poets, who often seem to be... Of course, this is no irony for the war poets, who often seem to be spoiling for a fight. The war poets fight the peace poets and the sex poets and the nature poets and even sometimes, depending on their politics, the political poets. So it is no wonder that they fight the love poets. But why do the love poets fight the war poets? This may not be a mystery for the ages, but it is a mystery. Poem number 292, The Sex Poets. When the sex poets are asked why they choose to write about sex instead of just fucking or sucking or even just kissing or hugging, some of them say because there is no one currently available to do those things with. Some of them say because it is best to write what you know. Some of them say because writing about food can cause one to overeat. And some of them will simply say because I fucking feel like it. Then they will finish writing whatever sex poem they are writing and then maybe go off and get fucked. The sex poets are a diverse and enigmatic group, but they write some really wonderful poems. Poem number 293, The Poets' Poets. The poets' poets write poetry about poets. Sometimes I'm one of them. Sometimes I write about John Giorno or Margaret Atwood or Allen Ginsberg or Carl Solomon or Gerard Manley Hopkins or A.R. Emmons or Dr. Seuss. And sometimes I write about the war poets or the love poets or the sex poets or the poets' poets. And, of course, sometimes I write about me as a poet. Most of the time, however, I write about things other than poets. So most of the time, I am an other-than-poets poet. Poem number 294, The Poetry Poets. There are also, of course, poets who write about poetry. I'm not one of them. I don't usually write about specific poems, although in the next poem, I will reference another poem of mine, but that's more about me being self-referential, which I do a lot, than it is about me writing about poetry. Of course, in the next poem, I also reference a poem by somebody else. So, in that sense, I suppose the next poem is, in fact, a poetry poem, which means that, as exemplified by the next poem, I am, on occasion, a poetry poet. I guess that's a good thing to know about myself. And the last poem of the day, poem number 295, The Pottery Poets. Finally, there are the pottery poets, the poets that write about pottery. I am one of them. See, for example, poem number 234 for this year, Pottery Time. If that's not a poem about pottery, I don't know what is. There's also Ode on a Grecian Urn by John Keats, who also wrote Ode to a Nightingale, which makes Keats a bird poet and a pottery poet. And I'm sure there are others. I'm sure, for example, that there are poets who have written about kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by gluing the pieces back together, but then dusting the cracks with gold powder, thus creating pottery that almost seems to say, I meant to do that. Any poem about kintsugi would be a pottery poem, as is Keats' Ode and my number 234, and for that matter, this poem. So I've written at least 2 poems about pottery, so I guess I'm a pottery poet too. I'm learning so much about myself today, and it's not even 9 a.m. I wonder what tomorrow will bring. All right, that's it. Thank you. You know what? I appreciate you.